Hello and welcome to a new episode of Real Spooky Stories, the place where I tell your real spooky stories. If you'd like to share your story, please click any of the social media buttons below. You can go on the Reddit forum, you can email me on jade@cryptocoven.uk, or you can just DM me on any social media platform, so be sure to give a little follow. So last week's episode was Reddit stories, and they were all about the woods, and they were quite scary, especially after me staying in Delamere Forest, which one of the stories was about. As I was walking through Delamere Forest, because I read the story before I went there, I was just looking around for that black wolf-like creature, and it was scary. And let me tell you, it was pitch black. The day we got there, it was about 5:30, 6, and we thought we'll take the dog for a walk in the woods, and we literally went like a couple hundred yards in the woods. And I'm not being funny, we had to buy a torch in the little shop because it was so dark you couldn't see in front of you. So you could hear like little twigs snapping and things, and straight away I was like, yeah, I don't like this. So we actually like turned back and went round where the little cabins were. It was still pitch black, but you could see at least some lights from cabins and some cars, which meant there was humans nearby. So I felt a bit better, but anyway, sorry. So if you haven't listened to that episode, go back last week and listen to that one. It was a bit of a long one as well, but yeah, the woods just scare me. But anyway, today's episode is episode 7, The Mimic. So these are stories from Reddit again, and I think I've got 5 stories for this episode, and it's all about mimics, and it's when things mimic things. And I'm just going to say mimic loads during this episode, but I don't really know how to explain it. When, like, for example, if you hear someone shout on your voice, or you have a conversation with someone or something, and then you go in the other room and they're in like a different room, and you were like, I was just talking to you. But okay, I basically just told all of today's stories in one sentence. No, I'm joking. Okay, I'll go back to story 1, and this one is taken from the subreddit Paranormal, and it's titled, Do I Have a Mimic? In capitals, that's why I said it like that. Do I have a mimic? My daughter just turned 13. She started researching why she kept hearing us say her name or come here when we never talked. Soon after, I started hearing stuff. Well, my husband and son's voice. I've even heard, hey mummy, come here. I stopped what I was doing, stood there. My son was at his dad's house. Recently, I was cleaning out my walk-in closet when my husband came in and said, how did you get in here so fast without me seeing you? I asked what he meant, as I've been there for a good while, and he replied, no, I just saw you pass me in the hallway to walk towards the kitchen. The next day I was outside looking for my husband, so I whistled because he wasn't responding. I heard, why are you whistling? I said, where are you? Why aren't you answering me? I then hear his voice say, I'm back here. I then walk out back to our garden and stopped the moment I didn't see him. I turned around, went up front, and he was watering plants with his headphones on. I asked him why he said he was about back when he wasn't there. He said, I never said anything to you, I didn't even hear you. Something else, my dog looks in areas of the house now and growls when there's nothing there we can see. We're also smelling cigarette smoke some nights. We do not smoke. That was a little short one, but the comments are saying, there's just the one comment that says, this is definitely a mimic. Someone's put, I heard if you mock the mimic, it will get annoyed and leave. And the OP has posted, me responding, I stopped and started coming to the actual person to ask if they said something. I don't say what anymore. I did it too many times to realise they weren't in the house. I definitely wouldn't mock it. Honestly, I'd already get highly uncomfortable once I realised they were an actual human's voice. My heart just starts racing. And everyone's commenting saying, that's what it wants your heart racing and stuff. I always think though, if you want to look at the comments on this, because there's people saying, what happens if you respond? Why are you not meant to respond? Why are you not meant to mock them? Blah, blah, blah. So if you want to look at the comments on this, I'll link it below anyway, so click it below. But I think mimics just want you to think that there's someone else so that you go to them. But then I feel like people do go there, and then what? Like, what happens then? Like, what is the point? You know what I'm saying? Okay, next story now. So this is the second story. This is from the subreddit Ghost Stories, and the title is Probably a Mimic. Back in the mid-90s, I was 14. I lived with my parents and 2 older brothers, but my other oldest brother and his wife and toddler daughter, my niece Laura, moved in with us for a short period of time. So we were 5 adults, 2 teens and a toddler. My mum loved cooking and loved taking care of my niece even more, her first grandchild, but she had a heart condition and other health problems, so carrying the little girl was taxing to her, so we would try not to leave her alone with the baby, just in case. Also, since we were so many, we would buy groceries in large amounts, like full trunk and back seat, many. My newly moved in oldest brother and his wife both worked, and to the family's dismay, at times, left the baby girl in my mum's care without supervision. We were a bit privileged, so our house was kind of big. I mean, gardens, fountains, palm trees, guest apartment, parking for 6 cars, and unfortunately it was haunted. One day I got home from school, ready to drop off my book bag, change, and leave to be with my friends. As soon as I opened the door, the sound of a busy kitchen and the smell of cooking food filled the house. My mum was cooking, my baby niece was in the living room on her baby walker, unattended. She didn't need it, she could walk, but the walker would limit her movements and access some spaces in the house. I yelled, "Mum, I'm home." Mum yelled back, "That's good." I asked my brothers and dad. Mum replied, "They went to buy groceries." I said, "I would not be going out. I'll be staying home and watching over my niece while Mum cooked." So I picked her up, watched cartoons, got Cheerios for her to snack, and gave her a box of juice. After longer than an hour, I know this because we watched more than 2 30-minute cartoon shows, we started playing chase. We'd run around the couch one way and reverse. I pretended she was too fast for me, then suddenly my dad swung open the front door, carrying grocery bags. I got to see my niece run into the bathroom, but I was slightly distracted by my dad. "Go outside and help your brothers bring groceries," he said. I replied, "Sure," but went into the bathroom for my niece. That's no place for a toddler. There's a toilet and a trash can, but she wasn't there. She must have come out in that second. I was distracted by my dad, I thought. I looked for her, called her name, didn't see her. My brother walks in with more grocery bags. Uh-oh, door's open. I think to myself, maybe she's walked out while I was looking for her in the living room. I walk outside, don't see her in the front garden or the side garden, back patio, garage, nor driveway. Perhaps back inside. She can't be that fast, she's a toddler, I thought as I started to panic. My brother yells, "Hey, come help us." Then I noticed that they didn't park inside the property, but outside on the sidewalk. The gate is open. What if she got out and no one saw? Okay, time to come clean and recruit help. I run outside. "Hey, have you seen little Laura?" My brother, "Yeah, she's in the car." I see her sitting in the car seat. They must have seen her walk out and put her in the seat to stay still while I bring groceries. I deduced. I got to come clean that it was I who watched after her. I didn't want them to blame Mum, but I helped them with the groceries first. A bit later, it was lunchtime. We all sat on our dining room table. The baby is in the high chair. I addressed the elephant in the room. "Hey, I just wanted to say I'm sorry for letting the baby out. I was looking after her, but in a micro distraction, she went outside." "When was this?" asked my sister-in-law. Today. "Today? At what time?" My brother said, "When you arrived from the market with the groceries, she walked outside and then you sat her in the car seat." "She went outside by herself, like to the sidewalk," my brother said. Everyone started freaking out. I said, "Yeah, luckily you were outside to catch her and sit her in the car seat." My sister-in-law then said, "Wait, today, before we left to the market?" "No, today when you got back from the market. Before that, I was watching her." My sister-in-law says, "No, she was always in the seat. We took her to the market with us. We agreed we wouldn't leave her alone with your mum, so we didn't." The conversation continued to basically establish a timeline. They all went to the market and took my little niece with them. My mum stayed and cooked. I got home and they returned home, still with the baby. I felt relieved I wouldn't have to confess to losing my niece, but was equally confused. Everyone supported my sister-in-law's story, and it was not a prank. Even my mum said that she was in the kitchen and not with the baby at all. If this is true, that my niece was not home at all that time, then who was I babysitting? Who drank the juice and ate the cereal? Who was the baby I was with? Perhaps it was my imagination or a weird mental episode due to whatever, but I'm 42 now, and if this was in my head, well, I've never had an episode with visions like that, ever. Neither before or after that time. To this day, I still get a bit of the heebie-jeebies when I think of this. Added note, through the years, my brothers had claimed to ghost activity in the house, from poltergeist to shadows, whispers and noises, and strangers in the house. If you'd like, I can share more stories. None of us live there anymore, but the spooky memories remain. Okay, yeah, that was really weird. The thing I don't like about that is, I was actually thinking this when I've just read the other story. Like, what if, like, when I've said, what do they do if, like, you respond to the call? Like, if someone calls you and then you go out and go to the thing, the mimic or whatever, what happens then? Like, they just spend time with you? Like, do they just want someone to spend time with? But this is exactly what I was about to say last time. Like, you literally spent time, but what was the point of that? Like, what was this mimic or whatever getting out of this? It's just a bit strange. Like, I don't like the whole time. Like, even just an hour is too long for something that wasn't really even there. And someone's commented, spooky, some kind of cryptid that shapeshifts, I'm guessing. The OP has commented, that's a wild theory. I got several stories from the house, both my own and from my brother's. I think the most recurring sighting was a shapeless shadow. Kind of like a shadow, but that was not on a 2D wall. It seemed like a mass, but not solid enough. It's hard to explain, but imagine if you cast a shadow, but it doesn't land anywhere, but it's also finite. Finite? Is that how you say it? It didn't just go on. We all saw it at different times. Even my friends who visited the house got to see it. And also, how old was your niece? Like, I wondered if you were like, were you in two places at once today? Would she know what you mean? Or if you just said, like, what did you do today? Would she remember that thing with you? Would she say we watched cartoons and we ate cereal and drank juice? That was a strange one, and it's long. That was a long time to spend with someone that probably wasn't your niece. Okay, yeah, so that was a real spooky story, that one. And let's go on to the third story now. This one is from the subreddit Paranormal, and it is titled, I think there is a mimic in my house, but it's mimicking me. I've experienced paranormal things since I was a child. I have always been open and receptive to paranormal things, and possibly to a fault. When I started dating my now husband, I would tell him all sorts of stories of things that I experienced through my childhood and teenage years. He has always been fascinated by the paranormal, and my stories always intrigued him, but he never experienced anything himself until we moved in together. I've always been convinced that I had a clinger, spirit that has attached to me somewhere in life and just stayed along for the ride. We've lived in different locations and always experienced the same things at each home. It was never anything malicious, and I always joked that my Casper was just doing things to say hi and let me know he's there. My husband just laughed it off because there was never a real issue and everything seemed harmless and playful. We've walked into our offices with our desk chairs spinning when no one was in the room. We have smart TVs and they all rotate, turning on in the middle of the night, as if someone is trying to watch TV, scrolling through the apps to select Netflix or Hulu. I've always seen it just run through the different HDMI options. Items that have specific locations, like keys, will end up in random places, like under the kitchen sink or in a sock drawer. We shut our closet doors at night and we will wake up with them wide open. I can't sleep if there is even a sliver of light showing in my room, and any light will wake me from a dead sleep. I wake up to the bathroom light switching on quite often, which requires me to get out of bed and turn it off so I can go back to sleep. My husband's computer powers on by itself, and it is a big tower with a power button that takes a little effort to push. We've become used to those things, but lately something else has started, and I think it's mimicking me. Lately, when I'm downstairs and my husband is in his office upstairs, he'll walk to the landing of our stairwell and ask me if I called his name. Usually if I need something or have a question for him, I would just call his cell if I'm too lazy to run upstairs, or if I'm in the middle of cooking and can't leave the stove. Even when I'm laying down in bed and he's on his computer in the same room, he will pull off his headphones and ask me what I need. For a while I was thinking, am I losing my mind? Am I actually saying something and not realising it? He has stopped gaming midstream to come find me, aggravated that I'm calling him when I literally haven't said a word. Every time I tell him that I didn't say his name, he gets confused. He gets this confused look, like he's trying to read my face to see if I'm telling him the truth. Yesterday was the turning point. I was laying in bed reading and he threw a bottle of water on the bed next to me. I asked him why he brought me a bottle of water and he said, "Do you not remember asking me for water?" I told him no, and pointed to a bottle of water on the nightstand that I had brought to bed when I laid down. He said, "You literally just yelled down for me to bring you a cold bottle of water." I explained to him that I did not say that because I have my own cold water that I brought to bed. We both agreed that something really strange is happening because this has just started within the last month, and I don't know if this is my entity that has followed me just now becoming vocal, or if this is something new. We're both of sound minds, and neither of us have any sort of mental issue that we're aware of that would have me speaking without knowing it or him hearing things. Aside from the extreme annoyance, is there a real cause for concern? Update. Thank you for everyone for your comments and private messages for my first post regarding the mimic in my house. You have provided great suggestions and theories, all of which my husband and I discussed on a long drive, as we didn't want to talk about this in the house. With this update, I may be able to cross a few off the list. Here is the first post if you are interested in reading it. We've tested for leaks and learned that we do not have any in our home. Thank God. We also came up with the idea to text each other for a week when he hears me calling to him while in separate rooms. We've been successful, but I also believe it's become a catalyst to the entire situation. I feel like we've annoyed it because we're not having that verbal conversation any longer. I call it a catalyst because it's now happening to me too. Within the last week, I've had 2 instances where I've heard my husband talk to me. Once in the laundry room, asking if we had dinner plans when he was actually on the conference call in his office. The other instance was a couple of days ago, down the hall from our bedroom, when he asked me if I'd seen this sketchbook, which is custom-made, hand-sewn, leather-bound book that I purchased for him 8 years ago. It's the most cherished gift from me, and it is kept in a very specific spot. This entity does move things from time to time, but this book is very heavy and stays on the dressing table when he isn't using it. Both times I asked my husband if he said those things, and both times he said no. He has heard my voice a few times in the past week as well. Twice calling his name and asking if he has seen my phone, and once asking if he grabbed me a drink. Previously, someone asked if he only hears me calling to him when he has on headphones. He wasn't wearing headphones any of the times that he has heard me in the past week, so we've been able to rule that out. A few strange things have started happening that weren't happening previously. The TVs haven't turned on by themselves since my first post, but we have a salt lamp sat on my husband's bedside table that now flickers 5 times before the light stays solid. We've moved it to a different outlet near his desk and changed the bulb, but neither has made a difference. We also have 2 fans in our bedroom, a ceiling fan and a standing fan. Both have been turning off in the middle of the night. To me, that's worse than TVs turning on because I rely on the sound and constant breeze to sleep comfortably. So as soon as they turn off, which is within seconds of each other, I wake up. Neither fan is set on a timer, we've both checked. The bathroom lights continue to turn on randomly at night, and we still wake up to the closet doors opened in the morning after closing them the night before. I also explained in the comments on the first post that I did mess with a Ouija board when I was about 16. Nothing significant ever came of those few times to my knowledge, and we just ended up blaming each other for moving the planchette. Since my first paranormal memory is from when I was about 4, I don't feel this current situation was brought on from my teenage stupidity. I believe it's still my clinger trying to get attention, or something attached to this house or property. We've purchased sage, but I haven't burned it yet because I want to make sure we are doing it correctly. I've heard numerous ways to do it, windows open, windows shut, and I don't want to agitate it. I've also been in touch with my family's pastor. We have a meeting scheduled next week to sit down and go everything so he can come up with a plan of how I'm able to help. We still don't feel like we're in danger, but it's becoming very clear that something is happening due to the persistence to get our attention. Again, thank you all for your advice and theories. If you have any other suggestions, I welcome them all. So it's actually a few years ago, this post, and I'm actually quite intrigued. It was 4 years ago. I'm actually intrigued what's going on now. But everyone's saying it's probably harmless. Just make sure you don't reply, keep your phone on you, and just do the texting. I have got a feeling this will die down if you just don't give it the energy that it wants. I don't know. It's just strange. I don't like that it's asking you to just bring bottles of water though. Like, what is this mimic getting out of you receiving a bottle of water from your husband? Like, what? And yeah, I agree with the earphones thing. Like, it could be a thing, but then you've obviously just said that didn't happen when he has the earphones on, which is a little bit strange. At least you've contacted your pastor now, and hopefully you can get rid of whatever this is, because it's really weird, isn't it? Yeah, I just don't know what they are. What's the reason? You know what I mean? Anyway, let's go on to story number 4. So this one is from the subreddit Ghost Stories, and it is called Mimic a True Story. A guy named Sam lived in the city, rented a 2-bedroom apartment because he hated to be alone. He moved in a lady and her young son. One afternoon, she told him she experienced something and she was very afraid. One night while walking to the bathroom, she saw a tall naked man walk down the hallway and turn into the kitchen. Sam asked, where did the tall man start? She said it looked like he was coming out of his room. She was terrified and ran to the bathroom. When she exited the bathroom, she didn't see the tall man. Neither Sam or woman had anyone over. Sam said he felt like he was being watched but dismissed it as childish. The lady stayed at his apartment for a few months and nothing else happened to her. She worked second shift and he worked days. Sam would be asleep when she came home. He would wake up to her sitting on the floor in his room. She would just talk away. He figured it made her feel safe, so he didn't complain. He kind of enjoyed it himself. This carried on for a few months. The lease was up and it was time to move. The woman had rented a place with her new boyfriend. Sam thanked the lady for helping to pay rent and all the good stuff. He also thanked her for the late night talks and said he was going to miss them. She was confused and didn't know what he was talking about. She said she usually goes to her bedroom. Why would I be in yours? Sam had no clue why would she be in denial. Sometime later, he thought about the tall, skinny man and wondered if that is who he had been talking to. Somehow he looked like her. That's nuts. Or maybe he lost his mind, a trickster ghost, demon maybe. Either way, Sam never slept the same again. I'm Sam, by the way. I just changed my name. Oh, that was funny. Yeah, that's funny. I wonder why. Like, what was the woman saying on your floor? Like, what was she actually saying? The story's only posted 30 days ago, but people are commenting the things, and he's saying this was years ago, so it must have been happened years ago, but he's only just posted it. Someone put, actually, what did they talk about? I don't really remember. It was years ago. I can remember that it laughed and it seemed to be a pleasant conversation. Just strange though, isn't it? Like, I don't, what were you talking to? And maybe, like, if she doesn't remember it, she could have just been sleepwalking, you know? But, like, for you to wake or whatever and she was sitting on the floor in your room and you didn't complain, like, I feel like didn't you even be like, what are you doing on the floor in my bedroom? Do you want to go to the kitchen and talk or something, you know what I mean? Instead of just sitting, waking up and not questioning it and then just having the conversation anyway. Like, even if like your husband was lying next to you and was somehow just sitting up talking when you woke, I would still be like, what are you doing? Go to sleep. Why do you want to have a conversation? Let's turn the light on. Why are you talking to me? You know what I mean? I feel like that could have been sleepwalking, but I don't know what the naked man thing was. Like, that's actually really strange. Okay, and this is the last one, and it is from the subreddit True Scary Stories, and it is titled, I Saw My Dead Dog or Something Pretending to Be Him. Growing up, I had a pet dog named Monty. He was my mum's dog from a previous marriage, and we shared custody of him with my mum's ex, alternating who had him every week or so. I can't remember the timing well, as I was a child when this happened. Monty died when I was 6. I was in the room when he died and witnessed the whole thing, from his last breath to him lying on the floor motionless with his eyes open, staring at me. It's a sight I don't think I'll ever forget. I'm not sure how long after his death this happened, but I know it was at least a few weeks, possibly even a few months later. However, it is a night that I will never forget. For context, the bathroom is at the end of the hallway, with my bedroom on the right and my parents' bedroom directly opposite mine, to the left of the bathroom. Just down the hall was a baby gate, and behind the gate was a third bedroom with the airing cupboard opposite. Past that were the stairs leading to the bottom floor. The night started as normal. I had tea, went up to bed and fell asleep. I woke up at some time past midnight. This I knew as both my parents were asleep, and my dad came to bed much later than my mum and I. As I lay there awake in my bed, I realised I needed the toilet, but something was bothering me, a feeling I had to stay in my bed and hide. After a few minutes of staring through the crack of my slightly open door, with the feeling of dread only worsening, I got desperate and eventually decided to risk it and go to the bathroom. I grabbed my headlight, turned on the torch and placed the band around my head. Taking a final look before pulling back my duvet and jumping off my bed into the cold wooden floor, I headed to the bathroom, and once I had finished, I washed my hands and dried them off. On my way out the bathroom, I closed the door slowly and quietly, not wanting to make much noise, when the horrible feeling returned full force. I remember turning around with the light of my torch facing the stairs when I saw a figure so black it was like a void. It was moving up the last steps and onto the hallway. I stood there frozen when my torch suddenly turned off. I panicked, pressing the on-off button repeatedly to no avail, while the figure moved closer. It looked like it was on all fours and the outline was that of my departed dog, but at the same time it was constantly changing shape, almost like a blob of water trying to stay together. Even though I had no light, I could see the figure moving, like a shadow of darkness itself. The figure was reaching the gate, getting so close, while I was still frozen like a statue from fear. I was shaking just staring at this thing until it reached the gate and somehow started moving through the metal bars. At this point, I screamed and screamed. I was screaming so loud I didn't hear my mum get out of bed and open the door. She turned on the light and pulled me into her arms. I was a crying, shaking mess. "Monty," I shouted as I pointed down the hall. "There's nothing there, Erin," she said, trying to soothe me. "There's nothing there." Confused, I pulled back slightly to look for myself, and she was right. The figure had gone. At that moment, my torch came back on, and the feeling of dread started to subside. Everything was silent and calm. To this day, I don't know what I saw, but something was telling me it wasn't my dog. Oh, I don't like the sound of this. I tried to add this story because I didn't actually read this before, but I thought it was like a mimic kind of thing. And I thought I'd add a little animal one because, as I said in the previous episodes, I just don't like animal things. But I thought I'd add a little animal one in there for this week's mimic topic. But it just sounds weird and like it's on all fours. That doesn't, I don't know. I feel like maybe she thinks that it's just looks like the dog because it's on all fours and that's what a dog looks like. But I feel like no, it just wasn't a dog. Someone's commented, "It wasn't your dog, it was something trying to upset and scare you so it could feed on your energy." And the OP has commented back, "Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. This was my first experience with such bad energy, but I'm psychic and have had lots of encounters with similar beings, though I've gotten much better at handling it over time." It's just strange, I don't like it. But if I woke up and thought that I had a weird feeling, I would probably just wee myself. But that was the last story for today, so thank you so much for listening. If you want to send your story, please email jade@crypticcoven.uk or click the link in my Instagram bio or any social media platforms below, or just DM me on social media. You can also post on the Reddit subreddits what I made for Real Spooky Stories as well if you want to post it on there. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. If there's any specific topics you want me to cover, please let me know as well, and I'll be happy to cover them. But thanks so much for listening, and I will see you next week at 12 p.m. on Sunday. Bye.